You're stuck, paralyzed. You're a creative person, but you're not making the creative works that you want. This is why I put together these 6 scenarios and also remedies for how to get you out of these creative ruts. Number 1, you're following the next cool thing online instead of following your own path. So let me set the scene. Bedroom, you're on Pinterest, or maybe Instagram Discover page, and on one side you have somebody who's making these clay sculptures, has their own business. On the other hand, you have somebody who's glowing glass figure charms. And then, oh look over here, someone is making these crazy 3D visuals. That's so cool, I want to do it too. And it just so happens that they have a course you can take to have the same results that they're having. This is what I call creative influencers, and they are very convincing because they know how to use the visual language. I'm not saying this is a bad thing, to support and know what your art community is, but the problem in these scrolling sessions is that they only provide you with an external motivation, and that doesn't last long enough, right? Because it doesn't come from within. So I think when you're younger and you're trying to figure out your identity, going online can be a great place to do that. But nowadays, with algorithms that they know what niche you like and will push it towards you, this inspiration sometimes just becomes overstimulation and noise. Because after a session, you don't feel more inspired. I just feel more overwhelmed personally. And so for the remedy, I'm going to prescribe that if you're online, try to be specific. Only float around these discover pages if you already have a theme, an idea, or a direction in mind. For example, you're making a character and you need to find a hairstyle for that character. You're knitting and you want to find a pattern. Maybe you're doing a painting and you're trying to figure out a color palette. These things you can open your eyes out intentionally. And it doesn't even have to be online. There's a lot of art around you if you're really looking. Like everything around you, you're walking on, the buildings, the signs, they all have designs and colors, and somebody made those things. So maybe you take your time to look at those things instead of your screen. Number 2, playing the long game. Okay, here's the scene. Just a week ago, you finished a project. This was something maybe challenging, fulfilling, and somewhat rewarding. But now you're finished and you feel a little empty inside. Maybe the project didn't perform as well as you expected or wanted to, and maybe it didn't open the doors that you thought it would have opened. Now what? This is actually a good thing when you get to this stage because you're in here for the long run, right? Knowing that you're here because regardless of who sees your work or how unimpactful it is, you'd be doing the same nonetheless. Every time you finish a project that means something to you, you're building this resilience and a pact that you finish what you set out to do. Okay? And don't get me wrong, I do think art is meant to be seen and shared. That's the beauty of it. You are supposed to connect and network and talk to people, but as a creative, rejection is 100% the norm. It's good to remind yourself that the reason why you do these things is because you can't not do it. That's the reason why. The remedy for this one is just to keep moving forward. It's not a loss. It's just one step of your journey. The third reason on maybe why you're stuck is because you're sick. Where are you working from? On the bed? How does your body feel? Does your back hurt? Do your eyes hurt? Have you stretched? Have you eaten? Okay. This one is simple. How can you work if you're in pain? So this prescription is also simple. Go out and take a walk, okay? And maybe you can do what you learned in number 1, which is go on your walk, look for things intentionally. Whatever you're stuck with working on, go look for it outside. Take a break, take today off. Let your mind free. I know it's not that easy, but you're not taking care of yourself and this is making you feel bad. It's feeling bad for me so that I go take care of it. Number 4, going edit mode. Know when to cut and know when to pursue. So for this one, I want to pull a quote from an author, William Faulkner, I believe, and he says, "In writing, you must kill your darlings." And this basically means like don't get too attached to what you're writing. Even if something sounds beautiful, if it doesn't serve the bigger picture of this book, or this piece of writing, then cut it out. Do make edits. So here's the scene. There's an old piece that you've written. Okay, you already opened and closed this document so many times, but it's not moving anywhere. The reason why you can't fully move on is because there's something really good in there, and but for now it's okay. So this is where I pull this quote, because if it's not moving, then you have to edit it. You have to change it. I think in writing, this is a lot more tangible. You're on Google Docs or Word and you just copy and paste them, so it's a lot more visible. So if it doesn't flow with the text, you cut it. When you start working on a project, there's usually a variety of influences, right? There's pieces that you brought on because you copied other artists. Okay, and it's not a bad thing, obviously. To get you started, you need to copy something. There are also going to be pieces that feel like yours because you made a mistake and something happened and it was surprisingly, it worked. And then there's also going to be pieces that happened because you intentionally experimented and actually found something new. So these feel like these are my ideas, like these ones feel more like you own them. So then the question becomes, how do you know what to cut and what to keep? The prescription I'm going to give for this one is to remove all of the security crutches. These are the parts that feel safe, that feel trendy. Save all of the things that are unique to the way that you see the world. What is something that only you'd obsess over and want to tell that way? I'm trying to think of an example. Every time I work on something and I copy, let's say like a color palette from an illustration that I really like, it always ends up changing to something else. Like, I don't know how that happens. It's almost like the work itself is telling you, now it's becoming yours. But if you're having trouble, like you're like, this looks good, but it doesn't feel great, then I would follow this prescription. Okay, number 5. Proving your worth to someone else. Now, here's the scene. You love to draw, and you love to draw. You enjoy it, but you can't find the reason to. Every day you feel, if I draw or not, if I start or finish this project or not, who cares? Like, what does it actually matter? Is it going to even make a difference? If it's too hard to convince yourself to finish a project for yourself, then do it to prove someone else wrong, okay? And this can kind of circle back if that other person is your inner voice. But think of someone who at some point didn't believe in you. Maybe it's an ex, maybe it's your parents, maybe it's some classmate that you had, a teacher, sometimes you got weird teachers. And whoever it is, finish your work so that you can prove it to them. I think the reason why I found some success with this is because it's founded on insecurity, and insecurity moves people. It gets people to do stuff and change and want to be better. And also it takes you a little bit outside of yourself. Like, in a way, sometimes it's harder to do something when everybody believes in you and they support you, because then it's all on your shoulders. Like, I have all the support. Who am I if I can't do this with all the support? I don't know. Is that healthy? I don't know. You decide, okay? I found success with this when I was a teen. I don't really use this anymore, but it really worked. Like, it was very effective when I was a teen, and I had strong emotional motivators. Okay, so the prescription is going to be simple. What you have to do is you have to get a Post-it, draw their face, and write what they say. You're never going to finish that song, or you can't do it. Okay, you can write their name or whatever, a fake name, and then stick it on your wall where you can see it. Use that idea of them to get you moving again. Number 6, the last reason why you may be in a rut, in this video at least, is you want to do 5 things at once. Now, this is kind of the opposite scenario of not being motivated. It's that you're too motivated, you're too ambitious. So you do a little bit of this, you do a little bit of that, and then by the end of the week, you didn't finish anything. You're like, where am I? Who am I? Why did I finish none of my projects? I feel like I worked a lot, but there's nothing to see. How can I do them all? Okay? And I think the answer is doing them one at a time. So you can do all 5 of your things, but just finish them, each project, one at a time. find ourselves in this situation a lot, a paralysis induced by choice and not wanting to lose something. I would make these schedules. I would block out portions in every day, 4-hour sessions. I would put together like 3 interests that I had that were kind of spread out. Tattoo, YouTube, 3D. I realized that I could focus better when I knock those 3 things down to just 2 things and eventually just 1 thing. And the reason why I think this happened is a matter of reinforcement. I made this chart. Okay, I'm gonna draw it out somewhere else. So it begins at the top. Let's say you have a boost of motivation. Maybe you saw a creative influencer and you're like, I need to do my own project. Sometimes they're good because they influence you to do what you need to do. So it starts out with a boost of motivation. I'm gonna do this. Yes, action. Then within this process of working on it, there's usually positive feedback and negative feedback. Usually negative feedback first, because you bump into a problem and you can get that positive reinforcement when you solve that problem. So you watch a tutorial online, you talk to a friend, you're like, I need help, they give you some advice, you try it, okay, I pushed through and I broke through. Great. This is positive, negative, and it keeps going back and forth. Struggling, tutorial, struggling, learning. All until the point where you reach a checkpoint in this project. And these checkpoints are really, really important because they kind of are essential to give you the next boost. They offer a feeling of a sigh of relief that you've completed something and that you're moving. So if you focus on only one thing, this positive reinforcement builds up and up and up. It exponentially grows. Taking in mind this chart already, let's say now you have 3 things you're working on. I start here, okay, with that boost. I end up here a little bit. And then once you start struggling, maybe I should work on my other project. Okay, you start over here on a separate project, and then you end up in this space again. And when you do that, let's say like 3 times, what happens is that you end up in this struggle situation for way longer than you need. It takes you a lot longer to reach one checkpoint, and it also kind of confuses your identity, because when I do this and I go out and I see someone and they're like, oh, like, what are you doing? Or if you meet someone new, it's hard to say what you are, because nobody wants to hear that I do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. They want something solid, you know? So when you focus on one thing, you can just say, I'm doing this one thing. And once you reach a checkpoint and you start working on something new, that reinforcement doesn't build, because now your brain is switched into like another mode and you're like less confident because you just moved from one thing to the next. The remedy that I will prescribe is turn those 4-hour sessions into 4 days. Just slow it down and make it longer. Within those days, I just want to finish this one thing. Ideas don't stop just because you decide that you want to focus on one thing. So if you're ever tempted to work on something else, I would recommend just keeping a journal, let's say dividing into 3 sections, and write down those ideas for the other projects. Record them, because those are essential, and they're not bad. They're actually really great. That way, when those 4 days are over, you start on your second pursuit, you can still have like new ideas to work on. Okay, those are my 6 things. And lastly, I just want to say that creativity is kind of like a mystical thing. To me, still, it's beautiful, but sometimes it can be also very unpredictable. And as humans, fellow human, we just want to control it, and we just want to understand it. Probably that's more of what it is. We want to understand how we work. So I hope that this video could give you a little bit of insight that was different from what you usually hear. And remember, if you're creative, you were blessed to be one. Even if it seems hard, like, it is a blessing. And go on, like, make what we need to see, what only you can make. If you actually do these things or you finish a project, like, share them with me. Maybe we could make a big Google Drive where everybody puts the things that they finished. Bye bye.